Grieving with hope? In our last video, we established a crucial truth. Your grief is valid, and God promises to meet you in your pain. But how does that change the way we mourn? An ancient letter, a timeless promise. Almost 2,000 years ago, the Apostle Paul wrote a letter to a heartbroken church, and in it, he gives a truth so powerful it can transform our sorrow into a grief that is filled with hope. The Apostle Paul wrote to a new church in a city called Thessalonica. These believers were grieving. They had put their faith in Jesus and his promised return, but some of their loved ones had died. They were confused and heartbroken, worried their friends and family had missed out on everything. It was into this very real pain that Paul wrote the words we now find in 1 Thessalonians. Chapter 4. He wasn't writing a heavy theological essay for scholars. He was writing a letter of comfort to grieving people. He wanted to give them a truth so powerful it could change how they grieved. He starts by saying, "But I would not have you to be ignorant, brethren." He knew that being in the dark was making their despair worse, and the only cure for hopeless grief is a clear promise from God. This isn't just an old letter. It's a promise to give you solid ground to stand on when your world is shaking. The first dose of hope. Sorrow is not forbidden. The first piece of hope Paul gives is in verse 13. "But I would not have you to be ignorant, brethren, concerning them which are asleep, that ye sorrow not, even as others which have no hope." Notice what Paul does. He doesn't say, "Don't be sad." He says we shouldn't grieve like those who have no hope. That's a huge difference. Grieving as a Christian doesn't mean you don't feel sorrow. It means your sorrow is filled with hope. Paul is saying your tears are normal. But he's drawing a line between the grief of a believer and the despair of someone who thinks death is the end. For those without hope, a final goodbye is exactly that, final. But for believers, it's different. The pain of separation is just as real. But it's not the end of the story. This verse gives you permission to mourn. You can weep. You can feel that ache in your soul. But you do it knowing a secret, a truth the rest of the world doesn't have. We grieve, but not like people who believe this is all there is. We grieve with an anchor for our soul. Your sorrow is not forbidden, but it is transformed by hope. But what is the foundation for this hope? Where does it come from? That's the bedrock promise we'll explore in our next study. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can continue this journey with us as we find comfort in God's Word.